All right. Welcome in. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. As you can see, I'm solo here. Terry is actually down at the NBM Irving show, and he's actually packing up. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. But my name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at aaronmontgomery.info. Today, we've got a really exciting show coming up for you here. This is our, and I thought it was fourth, but it's actually fifth installment. So I'm pretty excited for that, of our Women in Garment Decorating segment that we've been doing with our host, Kristine Shreve. Now, Kristine is not quite in the lobby yet, so it could be guest hosted by me. That will be odd, but we'll have a lot of fun, and we've got some great guests here. I've already talked to them in the background. So today's topic is women in conflict, how women deal with conflict and what they've been taught about conflict, and how women are supposed to deal with conflict, plus a lot more. So it's going to be a great conversation. Kristine should be along any minute now, and looking forward to this conversation coming up today. So we've got Cindy checking in. Good morning, Cindy. And Eric is handling comments for me in the background. So we'll see how I do here today, kind of rolling solo on the board. Eric has been helping me out a ton, but I couldn't figure out what to do with my hands. So no, just kidding. Tanya, good morning. And Maria, yeah, we got everybody checking in. And Mary, thank you so much. Todd and Linda, awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us. So let's talk a little bit of unfortunate cancellations. News topics here. So I have not seen anything on their Facebook page yet, but I did find it on their website. And plus, again, having Terry there, I got the text early this morning, but the NBM show in Irving, Texas has been canceled, and due to an order prohibiting public or private gatherings of 500 persons or more anywhere in Dallas County, we regret to inform you the NBM show in Irving, Texas has been canceled effective immediately. This includes all classes, all exhibits for the NBM show on Friday, March 13th, today, and Saturday, March 14th. So there is kind of a bummer there for them that they had the first day of the show yesterday. According to Terry, there was not a ton of people there, but certainly some interested parties, some buyers, and some people that were having good conversations. So obviously tough situation for everybody to be in. I don't know how to exactly put it, but kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So so that's happening there. The other news to report here is the Impressions Atlantic City 2020 has been postponed until October 2020. The health, and here's their statement: the health and safety of each and every member of our community and our staff is of the utmost importance to Impressions. After closely monitoring the risk and impact of the coronavirus on a daily basis and speaking at length with members of our community, the Impressions Expo Atlantic City, which has been scheduled for March 19th through the 21st, so that's coming up pretty quickly, at the Atlantic City Convention Center, has been postponed until October. It will now take place on Thursday, October 8th to Saturday, October 10th, again at the Atlantic City Convention Center in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So that's one note from them. And then Impressions had a second update today on the Orlando show, which was going to be right after. Impressions Orlando 2020 has been postponed until September, and it will now take place September 10th to Saturday, September 12th at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando, Florida. This is now going to coincide with the Surf Expo. Previously, they were partnering or kind of, co-locating it. I'm not real sure the exact term that they use there, but they're partnering with the ISA Expo, and ISA Expo has postponed their show until August 23rd and August 25th. And so the ISA Sign Expo will remain in Orlando as well. So, all sorts of good stuff. Cindy, this has gotten out of hand. Certainly pretty interesting. We're not going to dig too deeply into that today because we've got some great stuff we want to talk about that out there. But possibly for a future show to talk a little bit about this. I know in emailing with Kristine earlier, let's see, I got an email from her. So Kristine is, I just got an email from her. She is efforting. Kimmer and Mike aren't being picked up. So had a computer crash and blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. It may be me and our two guests. So that's okay. I will do my best to stay out of the way here, and it's gonna be fun. All right. So Carolyn, good morning, guys. Got my toilet paper and coffee and ready for the day. Speaking of that, I did want to share just to kind of lighten the mood here a little bit. A post I saw from a friend of mine, a t-shirt printer friend of mine, that I thought was I don't know. I thought it was funny. So you guys make your own decisions here. And this is in lieu of the weekly dad joke. I thought I'd skip that for the week because we've got some tremendous mothers actually coming on here in just a moment. So we'll let them tell their own jokes. But my t-shirt printer friend here, Sam Wilt, said, this just in from the World Health Organization. People need to buy t-shirts printed after being out in public. The t-shirt should be discarded and replaced with a fresh one. Besides that, they can also be used as a toilet paper substitute. Again, buy t-shirts, people. If you need a source, I know a guy. So there we go. Jane, howdy. Thanks for joining us. And Jane was recently on one of these Women in Garment Decorating. And Todd said the weekly mom joke. Yes, my wife has some fantastic jokes too. So we may ask Milissa and Pilar for a mom joke, throwing it at them right now. But anyways. Okay, guys. Well, let's, again, not get bogged down in any of that. Wanted to kind of get the mood lightened. We're going to talk about some wonderful things here in just a moment. And we'll see if Kristine can make it along. Like I said, otherwise I will be ready to go here. So I would like to invite everybody and thank everybody who's checking us out, the Two Regular Guys podcast. And you guys get to our belovedly known as regulators. And so if you're tuning in, we'd appreciate you sharing this with your friends so they can become regulators as well. Plus, we'd love and appreciate if you would give us a review over on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you might be listening to the podcast version. And definitely check that out and make sure that even though you're catching the live version here, that you also go check out the podcast versions, re-listen, redo, and just go review for us. We'd really appreciate that. Also, we are always looking for new guests. So if anyone you know would like to join us, just have them go over to Calendly, calendly.com/2 regular guys. That's the number 2 regular guys. And they can sign up for a Friday, or if you have show ideas, just hit us up on our website, 2regularguys.com. And you guys are already joining in on the comments, but keep those comments coming. We'll have a nice mix of comments and whatnot. So good stuff going on there. In fact, speaking of the comments, let me catch a couple real quick here. Cindy says, I need to start thinking of things that I can sew or print that people will want. Despite the crash in our town, people are canceling orders. Yep. You're not the only one, Cindy, but again, we'll make lemonade out of these lemons here. Mall normally has roughly 200 people walking every morning, counted about 50 this morning. So again, potential, but let's figure out how to make lemonade out of these lemons, folks. So that's what I'm all about. That's what I've decided. We're going to find the positive in all this stuff. So, all right, well, let's not get bogged down in that. Let's hear a quick word from our sponsors, the Impressions Expo, about what they've got coming up. Again, it's very fluid, so appreciate them trying to be out front of this stuff as quickly as they can. But let's hear a word from them here real quick. All right. Well, little obviously technical difficulties abound this morning, so let's try this one more time.
What is Impressions Expo? Impressions Expo, formerly known as ISS, is the premier trade show dedicated to the imprinted and decorated apparel industry. They have 5 shows that are produced annually in each region of the United States, including Long Beach, California, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Orlando, Florida, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and cap off the year at Fort Worth, Texas. Each of those 5 annual shows also feature over 30 seminars and hands-on workshops in categories such as screen printing, embroidery, digitizing, digital decorating, and much, much more. Visit impressionsexpo.com for more details, and while there, use the promo code REGULARGUYSIE for a free expo pass. Again, make sure you visit impressionsexpo.com to get more details. And the two regular guys look forward to seeing you there.
All right. Well, thanks again to the Impressions Expo. Hopefully you guys will be able to check out their shows upcoming. Just going to be a little later in the year. So no problem. All going to be good. All right, guys. Well, still getting some technical issues from Kristine. She's having a hard time getting everything connected. Computer crash. Got to love the internet. I think she's having some problems. So she's going to continue to effort, but we don't want to keep you guys waiting here. So we're going to dive right in. I am going to bring in my two guests here and introduce them both. So I'm going to start with Milissa. Milissa Clark is a mom to Parker and sales director for US Blanks and president of the High Voltage Marketing, with a focus on premium fashion and experiences. Before coming on board with US Blanks and High Voltage, she started at Liberty Holdings as a national accounts manager and then as a senior account manager at Next Level Apparel. When Milissa isn't playing baseball with Parker, she can typically be seen traveling the world with her boyfriend, Tim. Welcome into the show here. Milissa, I think we've got your microphone muted there. So
yep, there we go.
All right, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, let me grab Pilar and get her introduced. Pilar, welcome. Pilar has been in business for just over 2 years, starting off as a crafter, making shirts for the other Palm moms. Quickly jumped to team orders, and she upgraded her plotter software and heat press. She gets to travel to shows helping Matt Vassallo over at the Rhinestone World and their booth, and really enjoys the one-on-one chats with other businesses. As an admin for the Rhinestone World crafting page, she helps members, which is one of her favorite things to do. She was honored to be included in the March issue of Printwear magazine featuring women in business. She's been married to Will for 23 years, has a genius son in college, and a teenage daughter whose personality, possibly sassiness, I hear, is larger than life, but she's one of her closest friends. So Pilar, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. As I've said, Kristine is having a hard time getting in, so I get to host today. So we're going to have some fun here. So let's start off here. First off, you guys have any mom jokes you want to share before I get that part out of the way?
I'm going to pass on that for once.
Okay. All right. Pilar, anything?
Yeah, I went ahead and looked some up, but
Yes.
none of them are quite clean enough,
Oh,
I think, for the
all right.
show.
Well, after the show, I'll need to get some notes from you. So good stuff there. All right. So let me just start off with the first question that we've got here on the list, and as you folks in the live comments there, feel free to jump in and ask your questions of these wonderful young ladies. But do you guys think that men and women handle conflict differently? Pilar, do you want to start us off?
I definitely think that women typically lead conflict. We react with emotion. And in my own personal experience, I'm hot-headed and I have a quick trigger. And when I'm able to step back and just like think in my head and be logical, those are the situations that have been a lot better for me, where I can control the situation. I know what's going to happen with the outcome if I can just be calm and collected and think through it logically.
Sure. Milissa, what about you? How's your experience been comparatively?
I totally agree. I think men and women handle stress differently. And I think that we're taught to communicate our stress and the things that we want to stand up and say no on or have any conflict with. And it creates a very different dynamic in how we each internalize it and perceive it.
Sure. Do you guys find that some of that comes from, what you were taught about handling conflict as you were growing up? Does that, Milissa, you want to start us off there?
Yeah, I think women are generally taught, at least in my experience, that, we're not necessarily supposed to be the initiators of conflict or be the ones to say, no, something's wrong, or I think this is how we should proceed in this situation. And way too often, even in client meetings or anything like that, that our opinion can get pushed aside, making that conflict even stronger, at least in my experience, than it necessarily needs to be.
Sure. Pilar, what about you? What has that caused some of that?
Like, I was raised by my mom to stand up for myself. She was very shy, and so she wanted me to be a very strong, independent woman. And so from my time as a little kid, I had no problem standing up for myself and basically having conflict with anyone else. And as an adult, my kids are like, oh yeah, mom will mom anybody. It doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter how old you are, mom will mom you. And so I definitely have also like the mama tiger thing going on. But I do think that as women, we also have this unique opportunity to be able to use our more feminine side to go ahead and smooth things out and maybe like dial things down, like just even online, for example, as a moderator on a page, and even going back years when like there was the eBay pages where as a moderator there's easily ways that you can react to somebody's comments because you don't know the tone online. And so it's easy just to get upset about it. But then I find that there's a way to go ahead and talk to people and maybe like step things back and maybe like add a little bit of logic and calm things down as a woman. I don't know that men actually have the same opportunities as we do.
Yeah, I personally have a de-escalation sensor, right? If I can feel where it's getting super tense in the moment of conflict, I want to do everything I can to make everyone comfortable, which sometimes doesn't give me the result I want.
Sure.
And navigating through that can be really tough.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I can totally see that. I mean, I as a man, we can definitely be a little tone deaf to the situation, and if you have a sensor because you're leading more with emotion and empathy, that's a really valid point. So, do you think it? The next question is, what messages about handling conflict do you think our culture sends to women? And I'll let either of you jump in there.
Well, I think Carolyn just nailed it.
Okay.
Sometimes we're perceived as pushy by others when we have strong feelings about things. I know when I've been in some really intense negotiations and afterwards I get feedback and they're like, wow, you were way more intense than we really intended you to be. And they mean that in a very derogatory sense of, this isn't your lane. And I know if my male counterpart proceeded in the exact same way, it would be taken as though they were taking authority and taking the leadership position.
Yeah. Pilar, any follow up on that?
I definitely do think that women, strong women especially, or very emotional women and very big personality women, we can be seen as pushy or overbearing. But I do have like the two different sides of the dichotomy, because I do have that crazy mama tiger and the Italian with like the trigger. But then I also have the other side where I try to just like step back and think, okay, how can I de-escalate this? How can I handle things? And how can I finesse things? Oh, hi. Sorry, my cat just jumped up here.
Hey.
So let's see. So Sheila just said that her mom's timid and that's why she pushed her to be strong. Same thing with me. My mom was very quiet and shy, and she encouraged me to really have my own voice. And like, just for example, my own daughter with the sassy and the attitude, there are times where that child just goes ahead and pushes me, and I try and stop and think like, okay, I don't want to break her spirit. I want to go ahead and encourage her to have her own voice, because I'm raising a strong woman. No one's going to walk over that child. I've tried. You cannot.
I was that child. So
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. Let's go back and catch some of these comments here that I missed. Sharon had mentioned earlier, men don't lose sleep over conflict. Women do. It affects us more. Do you guys have any feedback on that at all?
I can't tell you the number of nights that I have lost sleep, or that I know all women in here will probably know that feeling, that gut wrenching, just it chews at the interior lining of your stomach.
Yeah.
That you're just like, I know I have to confront this and figuring out the exact same right way, so you're perceived the right way, so you get the effect that you want, and that you don't let your emotions. Sometimes mine comes out in like really kind of anger.
Okay.
And so I can't let that lead me, because that's not going to get me the desired effect that I need to handle the situation.
Gotcha. Okay. And Sharon says women can be seen as witches, men are seen as assertive. I think you guys were talking about that earlier as well. And then Tanya says, I'm either perceived as being witchy or an emotional wreck because my body language and face have no filter. I've gotten better, but it's a challenge. You guys have any comments on that? I actually do that myself sometimes, so I can relate to that. But Pilar, anything there?
it dawned on me just now about this time when we were in Mexico for the destination wedding for Todd and Corey.
Yeah.
And we were buying tickets to go across to the island. And this lady was out front meeting us. And so she was like, oh, yeah, tickets. It's the only place you can get tickets. It's $41. Meanwhile, Todd's over here and he's looking at the sign inside the store. And he's like, I think it says 16. And so we were telling the lady, hey, you know what? It's supposed to be 16. And she kept arguing with us and they weren't going to give us our money back. And so then I went over and like, oh, yeah, just let Pill take it. She's crazy. And so, it just, I got fired up, but I kept saying, no. We're going to be here one day, then we have a wedding, then we're leaving. No. Like, oh, 2 days, go to another island. Like, no. So I think that just as a woman, also being able to stick by your guns and like especially being small, they think that other people see me as weak or that they can walk all over me. And it's like, no, I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to fight for whatever is right or what I believe in. And so I think that's just another issue that women have to deal with. Depending on how you're perceived is how people are going to react to you.
For sure. Yeah. In fact, Renee adds up what my mouth doesn't say, my face will. And then Carolyn says, we also have the ability to listen closely even after the aftermath. This comes from kid negotiations with a 2-year-old. That certainly makes sense. My wife has a much better ability to listen when I'm red in the face and upset with our 8-year-old. She continues to listen and I've just shut off. So, all right, let's see here. Here's a good one. Many major corporations have begun hiring women because of the unique, personal, and empathetic leadership style that are critical to creating a solid team of employees.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, I love that as well. Todd says working with your spouse is hard too. So getting work from home. Totally understand that. All right. Let me get back to the questions that Kristine had put together here. So do you visibly upset when experiencing and handling strong emotions, crying red in the face, et cetera? And if so, do you feel that negates your message?
For me, it depends on who I'm talking to. With my husband, if it's a very emotional thing, I can go ahead and be like red in the face and so mad that my hands are shaking, and he knows that it's either he's gonna die or he better shush for a minute. One of the two, just one of the two. But with other people, I find that, especially like if it's a person that's in authority. When I used to work at UPS, I had a boss that tried to get in my face, and he was escalating it a lot. And so it was interesting because I was able to step back in my mind and think, okay, this is one of those times where I have a witness that's a union steward. And if I escalate this, it's going to be on me. If I just stay calm, it's on him. And so throughout my life, I found out I discovered when I can stay calm, it actually works out way better for me than when I go ahead and match somebody else's emotion.
Sure.
I have exactly 2 ways of dealing with conflict, and neither one are great and neither one are healthy. And I'm sure Tim's going to be commenting here soon on this, but that I either I shut down completely to try to avoid it, which is kind of a go-to. And then I spend a lot of time internalizing that and trying to figure out, what are all the best ways to handle the situation and not escalate. And then there is the I can't talk, I'm so mad phase, which I think everyone can relate to. Just last week, I was trying to install toner cartridges and I got, just so mad. I just started yelling at anything that got in my way. It didn't matter. But yeah, handling conflict is just so hard, and trying to navigate through all those emotions. You feel like almost a toddler sometimes. You're just like, I have all these parts of my brains and I can't figure out which one I need to pay attention to and focus on to get the right thing going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, a couple of other comments here. Heidi says the parent school battle in IEP meetings has taught me a lot about how to deal with conflict and perceptions. Happy I'm almost done with that. So yeah, again, a lot of conflict kind of situations and figuring out how to deal with that. Kristine, I'm so bummed I can't get my microphone to work. So annoyed. So Kristine, you're still welcome. So if you can get it going, come on in. we'll make that happen. But Sharon says we definitely see communication differently. Women see color, women see colors. Men are black and white. Most men only want the facts. Women want details. Can you guys expand on that a little bit? Maybe Pilar, can you help explain that?
It's very true. Just like how even my husband was telling me the other day how women, we have 1,000 times more words than men. We like to express ourselves. We want to know details. We want to know the ifs, ands, whys. And men are just like, okay, straight to the point. Don't bug me with any of the extra information. They just want as little concise information as possible. Like if you give a man a card, he's not going to read it. He's just going to open up and say, okay, it says love you, bye. And that's it. He doesn't want to read all the words. He doesn't want all the information. Women are like, oh, look at all this stuff. And it means something to us. And so I think that, men and women are definitely different. And sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
Melissa, what's your take on that whole difference between, that, again, color versus black and white and how that looks?
For me, I totally identify with that statement, and that like I was saying earlier, I feel all the emotions at once, and I know that men don't necessarily feel that, or why we feel all of those things, because there could be some underlying current in that moment of conflict that has nothing to do with that moment, because women tend to carry our entire days with us. If our kid made us mad in the morning, right, we're going to carry that through until we're able to resolve that piece of the conflict at home later.
Yeah.
So I think it's just that we're carrying everything with us and having to navigate through all of those feelings. It's really more difficult. And I can't believe I'm admitting that I have feelings. I try really hard not to.
I believe Tim is jumping in here with saying truth. Okay. Sheila says, I definitely have learned to walk away from a situation to quote unquote regroup. You guys feel like that's a pretty good strategy that can be used in conflict?
Yeah, definitely. Just because, like I said, I have that trigger and I can just go ahead and be like 0 to 60 instantly. But as I said, if I can walk away or if I can step back and just like calm down and be logical, it works out much better for me. And like there's one time that one of my customers, who actually is related to me, just really made me mad. And I was so ready to just like fire back an email and just rip him to shreds. I'm like, okay, you know what? No, and it actually took like 4 days for me to calm down from that. And then finally I'm like, okay, not as a family member, how would you treat any customer? So I had to take 4 days to calm down and then address it. And then everything was fine. And so, yeah, I think being able to step away is very vital at times.
Yeah. Yeah. Melissa, do you have you found that being an experience for you that helps too?
Yeah. And, this is where I really appreciate having a great support network, and that specifically with work, that I will go to, a lot of different people and say, how would you handle this situation? Am I overreacting, or just so I can get a better gauge on what the appropriate course of action is? Because sometimes I know what I really want to say, but I also know that will have really bad impacts.
Sure. Okay. Sharon actually, oops, the wrong one there. Sharon actually said that is important in dealing with customers, knowing the difference on what they want for business transactions. Do you guys find that too when dealing with your customers, that you do have to take a different approach depending on if it's a man or a woman?
I do.
Okay. All right. Pilar, what's been your experience there?
Well, I'm trying to think. I usually deal with women, and the most recent transaction I had with a man, it actually wound up being very good. He was very adamant and against what we were doing for his baseball team. It was a baseball booster club, and he was just like fighting the whole way. And I was dealing with him through another person. When he actually met me, things worked out really well. And he's like, oh, this has actually turned out to be a profitable partnership. And so I do think that the way I have to deal with men and women are different. Women I can go ahead and connect with, and we can bond over different things. And then men, you just have to make it precise and give them exactly what they want, understand what they want, and then just deliver it. Don't give the extra personality and touches.
Sure. Okay.
I agree.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Let's see here. I'm just trying to get through the comments and make sure that we're getting it, because there's some great stuff. Matt Fasalo checking in. So what's up, Matt? I appreciate you joining us today. And so Linda says, Jeff and I have worked together in the business for just under 10 years. Sometimes it's nice to pass off a customer to the other person when one of us gets frustrated. I think good. Yeah. I think in general, just in a coworker space, that there's sometimes where it's just that connection's missed. So you gotta maybe this person can try differently, but definitely good stuff there. Let me cover one of the other questions over here. Why do you think some women are so conflict averse? Some to the point that they're neglecting their own best interest to avoid that. I think, Melissa, you said that. So, Melissa, you want to start us off there?
Why do I do it? Because I don't like conflict. I don't want anyone mad at me. And yeah, there's, I do full on custom apparel, and there can just be some really uncomfortable, not fun situations in that process of development. And that's before prints even put on there. So it's just, I don't want to be shown as wrong or weak or having to sometimes yield the power, which sometimes I have to do, and isn't the funnest thing to try to recapture and reclaim. So I think that's why I try to avoid it as much as possible, just because I don't want to be the one who's embarrassed at the end of the day.
Okay. Pilar, what about you? Any thoughts on that?
I actually know a man who is a very good friend and business owner, and he is a bigger avoider of conflict than me. But so I think for me, I like being liked. And so kind of same thing as Melissa. I don't want to be the one that people are mad at. I don't want somebody to dislike me, but I also like sometimes you just don't know how to handle something. And so I'm lucky that I have a very close group of friends in the industry that we bounce ideas off of each other. And it's like, hey, you know what, this is what I'm dealing with. How do you guys handle this? And so it's great to have other people that you trust, that have various levels of experience, and that you can trust and find out their experiences or their suggestions. And then you internalize that and decide, okay, what's the best route for me? So there are times though that you just have to go ahead and go with your gut and be like, you know what, no, this is what's right for my business. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to be pushed around.
Yeah.
Well, and we're not taught, I mean, I was taught to stand up for myself, but it's still not as strong as sometimes men are able to stand up for themselves, right? So working in a corporation, you have to speak loudly and you have to be adamant and you have to know why. And you really have to assert yourself. And that's never comfortable, especially when you've got people who may not want you to have that empowerment.
Yeah. Interesting. And what Pilar had said earlier, I'm right there with her. I'm fairly conflict averse myself. I had to let somebody go the other day. I had to terminate their employment, and I didn't sleep for the 2 days in front of it and behind it, and sat down with her, and it she was just like, yep, I understand. Yeah. I mean, she had not shown up for a 9 a.m. shift 3 times already. And so, and she showed up at 1 o'clock instead. So I think she knew it was coming, but again, I felt that way of like, I don't want to devastate this poor young lady, but she's brought this on herself. So yeah, that whole standing up for yourself and doing what's right is important, but also can be a challenge to navigate for sure. So,
that makes me think that, every time I kind of prepare myself for battle, quote unquote, it ends up being way less terrible than I think it's going to be. And that the other person is generally already had probably worked through some of the emotions on their side too. And they're ready to just come to a compromise and, work out this situation.
Sure. That's a great point. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think I build up my anticipation more than anything. So that's a great point there. So let's see here. Carolyn has said, we were taught early on, the baby boomer era, to be polite and no conflict. Then the 70s hit and those girls have brought up stronger women. I would agree with that. Do you guys agree with that statement as well?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like my mom was in high school in the 50s, and she wanted to take engineering courses. She was the only girl, and her professor actually said, really, you're going to take this class? And so she was so shy, she just bundled up and left, and she never went back. And I think that kind of experience is part of what pushed her to empower me and make me be able to stand on my own 2 feet and defend myself and state my opinion. And then I don't think I did that to my daughter, but man, that child has got more personality and more strength than I ever could dream of.
Yeah. Well, Well, congratulations, and thank you for bringing up such a wonderful young lady. So, all right, and we've got all sorts of different comments, so I'm going to be all over the place here for a second, guys. So bear with me. But Renee says, if you state something as your opinion, people cannot argue with you. Carolyn follows up with, we fought hard to get a voice for the future generations. Let's help them excel. And Kenya says, thanks for sharing your insight. This gives me reminders of balance and boundaries as I evaluate my future customer interactions. And Carolyn agrees with you there, Milissa. So good stuff there. Eric. Eric is handling the comments for the two regular guys in the background here for us. He says, do you think that there is a difference to how women build and utilize support networks? And either one of you want to jump in there?
I guess I don't know how men do it.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yes, the ladies in our lives to help us is typically how I do it. That's a good point. So yeah, it is a interesting thing where the community, I've found that in my group of guy friends, we typically resort to teasing each other and maybe even putting each other down. And that actually is community building for us. And if you're looking at it from the outside looking in, you're like, why do these guys ever hang out? But those are some of my best friends, give me the hardest time. So that to me would probably be a difference. Do you guys find the networks that you create to be very supportive?
It depends on which group it is. So the group I mentioned I have here in the industry, there's Todd, there's Kelly, there's Corey, there's Renee, and there's Matt, and we do cut each other down. We tease each other, and if one of us screws up, we're right there on them. Yeah. But it's all in good nature. But then like my other group of friends here, like in Colorado, all these women, it's very supportive and it's very like cheering each other on and celebrating each other's successes. And like I know my other group does too, that they celebrate our successes, but it's definitely a different kind of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Melissa, do you have different kind of groups like that too that are support networks?
Yeah, but kind of going back to I think what the point of the question was, is that I think in my experience, and I could be totally wrong, is that I go to, and I have women come to me all the time about, how would you handle this situation? What would you do here? Very rarely do I have a guy coming to me asking for that kind of advice. And I don't think guys do it as often, and I don't think they do it as directly. Because it might say, oh, I don't know how to do something, which is probably it's one of the scariest things to admit as a professional, right? But in terms of building my support network, I try to do it with people from all across the board and with a ton of different varieties and outtakes, so that, I'm able to get the best support and broaden my network as much as I can. Yeah,
that's great. That's a great point. Well, so guys, we've been talking a little bit about kind of how conflict affects us and how it kind of some of what's going on. I want to ask, what are some strategies? I know we've touched on a few of them already, but do you guys have any other strategies for how you manage that whole, okay, I know I've got conflict coming up. I've got to stand my ground here. How do you assert yourself in those situations? Melissa, do you want to start for us?
When I don't, tips for handling conflict, I'm probably the worst person in the world. I'm an internalist. I internalize it all to the point where it will make me physically sick. So I don't recommend ever doing that. And just taking a deep breath. And I really do believe in kind of walking away and coming back to the situation, even if it's for 2 or 3 minutes, that can really re-engage your brain in a different way and help your own brain de-escalate the situation, which is more often what we end up doing, is internalizing that escalation. And times when I have conflict and it's in front of me and I don't have a choice, one thing I keep saying in the back of my mind is be firm. Don't waver on your voice. Believe in what you believe in, because if you start to waver, your voice starts to flicker. That's when the moment of you're going to lose whoever you're dealing with is not going to have confidence in what you're saying or take you seriously.
Gotcha. Yeah. Pilar?
I handle things two different ways. So like there's the procrastination side of me where I'm like, ooh, that's not going to be fun. I'm going to go hide. And I like to like hide away from it. And then I'm like, okay. Then the logical part of myself starts yelling at me. And so, we have a conversation in my head and, I just admitted that I'm crazy. So that's great.
Then we're all crazy. So,
so if I am listening to the scared side where I'm just like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with that. And I go to my friends like, hey, what do you guys do? And I sometimes get bolstered by them. And then I still avoid the conflict because it's not fun. It's not pretty. Then finally I get mad at myself and I go ahead and deal with it. But the other side of me, the strong side that I really like to listen to is the one that's like, I'll just go ahead and react. And then as long as I'm able to react quickly, so I don't have a chance to second guess myself, it seems like it works better. As long as I'm not like fired up, as long as I don't let my emotion take over, but I can go ahead and react quickly, then I think that those kind of conflicts I'm able to handle faster and better. So I'm not beating myself up. I'm not worried about it. I'm not internalizing. I'm not like, it's going to be ugly. Help. So just jumping at it. And then like when I'm in it, I'm like, crap. Oh, okay. I guess I'm going for it. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. All right. So Sharon has a question for us. How do you handle a customer that is a PIA? You guys
charge them more.
Yep.
Taking all your time to keep your business ethics, but fire the customer. So Milissa, I think perfect point. Elaborate on that.
I have a whole section of customers I call vampires because they suck all the time, energy, and knowledge that I have spent years and a lot of time myself getting, and they don't get that for free. That costs money. I charge them more, or I have very gently kind of persuaded them that maybe this relationship isn't the best fit for anybody involved. More of them stick around than I would like to admit, but I'm not in a position to fire a whole lot of customers.
Yeah. I mean, that can be a challenge. You firing a customer can be painful for your business, but it also can be very valuable for your business too. So, raising the prices, letting them self-terminate is what I always call that. Pilar, any other suggestions for dealing with the pain and the,
Yeah. The PITA customer, you have to charge them that PITA fee. There's only been a couple I've had to deal with, luckily, and I raise the price and charge an extra little fee on that. And then I just know if they come back, this person's not going to be fun to deal with. And that's the only way I've had to deal with it, is just like charge the extra fee. And what's also kind of nice is that there are other people in my community that do what I do. And so if I get one where I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this person anymore, I can say, hey, you know what? I'm completely booked up for the next however many weeks. Mm-hmm. And perhaps you can go to this person instead. If I have somebody like that, although I'm sure that the other people in my community will be like, gee, thanks for personnel for me. Thanks.
And one thing kind of touching on this is that I think women sell themselves way too short and don't factor in enough what that knowledge base is to deal with these vampires. And being sure that you're charging for your time and your knowledge, that's why they're coming to you. So charge more than you think, because I guarantee you a male's doing that and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've always used that, just keep raising the prices until I walk away. So, or I'm making enough money that it doesn't hurt so bad. Kristine says, it's killing me. I'm not be on camera for this. You're making such good points, and Aaron is doing a fabulous job hosting. Kristine, thank you. I'm half of what you would be doing, but feel free to keep asking those questions there, Kristine. We're going to have a great time. And then Corey said, Pilar, in relation to your talking to yourself there, you aren't crazy. You're having a staff meeting. That's all small business owners. That's a staff meeting. That's perfect. So let's see here. I don't want to miss anything, but probably skipping over a couple here. Stake the vampire.
That's going to be my new hashtag.
There you go. You love it. Let's see here. We get them because we know how to deal with them. That's the benefit of women who own businesses. That's a good point there. Let's see here. What else am I missing? Eric did have a reminder for us that just so long as you don't put it on the invoice. I had someone I consulted with who had a PITA fee on their back end and actually had it show on the paperwork. Oops. Yeah. So let's see here. These customers are my main customers. Others do not want to deal with them, so I get the benefits of sales based on the cost. So that's a good point that Carolyn makes there. You know, if that's actually you're good at dealing with those pain in the ass type customers, and you're able to charge enough money to make that a profitable business for you, there's some opportunities there too. So that's a good point.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let's see here. Kristine says, good point, Milissa. I think women selling themselves short is a common problem. What can you guys maybe elaborate a little bit more on that too, and give us some examples and ways to deal with that? Pilar, have you ever felt like that?
That I've sold myself short? Yeah. When I first started, I was making pennies on the dollar, if that, for the outfits I was making. And one of my best friends, like, you need to charge more. I'm like, oh, you're a friend. And she's like, no, charge more. And after getting to know people in the industry and starting to listen to podcasts and watching Matt on his lives, you start realizing that not everyone can do what you do, and not everyone has the same passion that you do for your job and for what you create. And that's what people are paying for. They are paying for the hours that you spent and the passion that you have and the knowledge that you have. It's not just like, oh, I can slap something on a shirt and there you go. I know how to fix a problem if it comes up. I know what can go on things. I know how to do things. I know how to make it look good. And that's what they're paying for. And I mean, I've had people message me privately, both men and women, saying, hey, this is what I'm quoting for this job. What would you quote? And, you know, I think I undercharged it. I think I overcharged it. And so I just tell them, these are my prices. This is what I do. And if you have a set policy, I think that it really helps both you and your customer know what to expect going into a transaction. Sure.
Melissa?
I think what you said at the very last piece of that is probably the most important.
Oh, thanks, Robbie.
Is setting expectations with your customer early. I know that I have been taken advantage of way too many times.
Sure.
In terms of my knowledge and it's self-recognition at this point, that I will be in the middle of a consultation and I'll say, you know, listen, at this point, you know, my job is to do this, and we've accomplished this. If you want more than that, we can talk about doing a consultation, but that's an additional charge.
Sure.
Because you're not going to get this information elsewhere for free. And so knowing that own value of myself, I've noticed it specifically when I go into like negotiate salary contracts or anything like that. I don't think it took me a long time to figure out what I was worth. And knowing that, you know, people who have less experience are making the same, if not more than I do. Why is that? I've spent all this time and energy to learn all of this information. There's no reason for that. So just stepping up and saying, no, I am worth this. And if you don't think I am, then we can work something else out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's perfect. You are worth that. And that's awesome. Robbie says, Pilar, you're one of the smartest crafters I know. So
thank you. That's sweet.
That's
a good point, Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly makes a great point, and I've always really respected, and we were fortunate enough to have Kelly on talking about this. And, you know, what Pilar was saying, you spend all this time learning and getting better and honing your craft and you know, bringing that additional tangible value, like Pilar was saying. And I think Kelly's a perfect example of that. You know, she picks her price and gets it, you know, and has people waiting in line for it. And I love it. So make sure you give yourself a cost of living increase every year by raising your prices. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Renee. Thank you so much for that. Kristine, here we go. I think women are often told that their skills and abilities are less valuable. Pilar is making a great point. You are being paid for all the time you spent learning and how to do what you do.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep. Carolyn says, if they could walk into Walmart and buy what they want me to make custom, then they would not be standing in my shop. So how to know that you bring value. Melissa has a great point too. You have to set the expectations, not the customer, and you have to have high expectations to make doing the job worth it. So women have to make sure they're expecting what they're really worth. So I think that's a great point too. So guys, what have we missed here? What haven't we dealt with in conflict? Are there some things that you guys felt like we needed more of? Pilar, I'll let you start with this one.
I'm trying to think if there's something we haven't really touched on that I wanted to talk about, but I can't think of that.
Okay.
I mean, I know that there's been issues in my life, especially in this industry, where I've had conflict. Like one of my closest friends and customers had actually insulted me a few months ago and said, "Oh, well, you can't grow your business anymore. It's just you." I'm like, "Thanks for the confidence. Okay." And in the next breath, she told me how she's going to open up a screen printing business in her basement and go after all my customers. Like, good luck with that. That's great.
That's
okay. Because so she hadn't researched it at all, but she had thought for sure she's going to be able to do this and target my customers and build her business after me. And I'm thinking, you haven't spent any time. You haven't poured your heart into this. And I'm kind of trying to see it as a compliment that apparently I make whatever I do look so easy and so good that anyone thinks like, oh, I can just jump and do that.
Sure.
Oh, I can do this too. No problem. Like, okay. So I think that a lot of times as women, we also learn to just bless and release. And that's one of the best ways to deal with conflict. Just, okay, I don't want to waste any more of my energy on this. So bless and release.
That's a great point. Thank you, Pilar. Milissa, what about you?
The only thing I have to add or like really emphasize is that women are way stronger than we give ourselves credit for. There's a reason that we're the ones who are giving birth. So it's making sure that we empower each other and uplift each other. And when we're in a group of women, don't do the natural kind of thing of tear each other down. So keeping those pieces together, I think, is really the most important thing that we can do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've got one more question here from Tim. He says, how do ladies deal with quote unquote condescending or inappropriate comments from male customers or counterparts? Milissa, do you want to start that off?
I think he set you up for that.
This is a setup, yeah.
This is a kind of how I can talk about this. So a week ago, we were doing an event and I was trying to explain the two different types of cotton, right, to someone who knows nothing about t-shirts. Sure. And he was holding a vodka soda. So I was like, so are you a Tito's guy? You kettle, like, what's your best vodka? And he's like, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, let's say Tito's is the best vodka. And he's like, oh, well, you're a girl, so that makes sense.
Oh, God.
What? Oh. Thank you. Anyway, so I just, you just kind of laugh and you're like, okay, so at least now I know the level of idiot I'm dealing with now. And you kind of just take it from there. Very rarely, is it to a point where I have to address it right out that, I usually just try to divert, which can lead into some other weird situations, but you kind of just have to let it go. And from there, that's at least how I handle it. To probably bad methods, but
no, I think that's great. I apologize for my counterparts and their tone deafness. So, Pilar, how about you? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I just saw Kelly's comment, which I love, and she says that she outworks them and outskills them, and she does it with a smile. And Kelly is a class act. I love Kelly, and I've learned so much from her, just how she handles things and how she deals with things. And she's a full-on business, and she handles it with grace. And for me, just because I am who I am and I've got a mouth and a lot of attitude, a lot of times if somebody were to say something like that to me, or, oh, well, you're a girl, of course, I come right back at them like, okay, well, what do you mean? And, that's not always the best way, but it does often like turn it back on them when they feel like the jerk, like, oh crap, she actually called me out on that. Because I think a lot of times people think, oh, okay, a woman's not going to say anything. I can just say whatever I want. And if you turn around, I'm like, okay, well, no, you were just a jerk. And if somebody actually has enough about themselves to say, you know what, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have said that, I was a jerk. Like, okay, great. No problem. Then we're good. And I have respect for them again. If they go along with being a jerk, then it's like, no, okay, I've lost all respect for you and I'm done.
Good. Well, good tip for all the gentlemen listening in. Own up to your mistakes.
And for the guys listening, the one thing I can say is that, the double standards will not stop until other men call it out. Women, we've done our job. Like, we're saying, no, this isn't okay. But until other men stand up and say, not cool, bro. This is, it's not going to end.
There you go. Well, good. Well, not cool, bro. So, I've even got a podcast for that. So there we go. All right, you guys, wonderful stuff. Let me see here. If I do have one more question for you, if you guys are okay with, we're going to go a little bonus time here.
Yeah.
Do you find more people approach you as a woman for charitable donations, playing on your sensitive side? Pilar, you want to start off there?
Yes, a lot. I don't know how many people go to men, so I can't answer if it's more, but I do have a lot of people coming to me saying, hey, will you support this? Will you support this? And, Todd actually mentioned to me one time, and I love what he had said, that if it's a school that does not support small businesses, then I say, well, you're not supporting me. You're not ordering from me. You don't have me doing your spirit wear, but you want me to go ahead and donate to the team. But then there's another school that buys for me all the time. Like, heck yeah, I'll go ahead and support your team and I'll go ahead and give back. And so one thing that I've done is for schools and teams that do buy from me, I'll run an Equid store, not a Euclid, an Equid store. And I'll tell the coach that, I'll go ahead and run this for 2 weeks and I'll give you 10% of all pre-tax sales back as a donation to the team, which they love because they're getting money and they don't have to worry about handling any of the finances and who's ordering stuff and none of the details. It's all on me. And so I think that's one thing that I've done that's actually helped me, and also kind of gets me out of them coming and asking me later on for more of a donation, because I've already handled it up front. And it's just actually building up my store and building me more money in business.
I love it. Melissa, what about you?
So both High Voltage and US Blanks have a very strong nonprofit component to their business model. So what's been great is when people do approach me, if it doesn't fit within that model, sorry, it's not within, what we're already doing a lot. This isn't in line with our messaging necessarily. So
nice. So it sounds like from both of you guys, having something set up and in place beforehand is certainly an important piece of managing and controlling that. Yeah. Yep. So good stuff. Okay. Did I miss anything here? Let me just check through the comments. Obviously some stuff in there. So if you guys are listening to the podcast version of this, I also want you to get back over here to the Facebook page, facebook.com/2regularguys, and check it out and be active in the comments here. So you guys are fantastic, amazing rock stars. Melissa, can you start us off? Tell people where they can find you, get connected with you, network, whatever. And then, if you have a little pitch or anything you want to share, this is the time.
It's 9:00 in California, so it's a little early for pitching.
Sorry.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, all those places. I'm usually milling around in all sorts of different groups very quietly. US Blanks is an all USA made, so Corona free, unless it's with your beer. Brand, and then High Voltage is all live event screen printing, based out of Austin and LA.
Wow, awesome.
So, yeah,
that's right.
Cool.
Pilar?
I am on a lot of Facebook groups. I'm an admin on the TRW Crafting with Vinyl and Rhinestones and Vinyl page. I'm also on the Our Success group and Fat Dad Wholesale. I'm on Instagram. That's where I usually post all my stuff, is Pill Customs on Instagram. And a lot of people just message me through Facebook, which, if you have questions, if you need help with something, I'm always happy to help. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know straight up, hey, I don't know, but I think it could be like this, or this is who I would put you in contact with. So
awesome.
Great. Luckily, we all have weird names, so you can find us easily.
Yeah. All right. So there's Eric's got usblanks.net, where you can find that there, and Pill Customs on the Instagram. I love following you, Pilar. So thanks for all the great stuff you post there. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today, and we'll get Kristine back here soon, and hopefully have you guys back as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Bye. Wonderful. Wow. It's so cool. I appreciate you guys working with me and helping me out, and tried my best to fill in for Kristine. Certainly know that she's the the rock star here. So appreciate you guys and all the help in the comments and feedback. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and get closed up here, because I don't want to overshadow at all what great information we just heard from both Pilar and Melissa. So great to get a chance to talk to them today. Really excited about that. Let me share a couple of events here with you, and then we'll get on out of here. Eric is going to be teaching Demystifying Digitizing. His webinar is coming up on March 28th, so right around the corner here. And so if you want to check that out, you can, basically it's one of his most popular classes from the trade show floor, and he's going to be teaching it online. He's going to be talking about better running, bolder, more beautiful embroidery with a faster cycle from concept to completion. So you can go ahead and check that out over at bit.ly/EricDD, and that's Eric with an H, ERICHDD. So great stuff there. And we've got some other potential show things coming up, but with all the cancellations going on there, we're going to pass on those. Terry has got coming up here, scheduling and estimating production times video series. He's going to be doing that every Tuesday for 5 weeks, starting March 31st at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time there. And you can go to decorators.education/SEPT. So SEPT would be where you check that out, and all that's happening. Again, some other trade show stuff happening here for Terry, but with those things in flux right now, I'm going to go ahead and pass on that. And then lastly here for me, my good friend Todd. So yeah, Todd says all events canceled, digital shows and training will be the thing for the next 6 months. So Todd and I have oursuccessgroup.com that you can check out, or go to facebook.com/oursuccessgroup. We've got training coming up and lots of great stuff. In fact, we're talking about Equid on the 18th, and I'm actually even saying it right now, so that's a bonus. So good stuff happening there. We have our 5 Keys program, 5 Keys to Launching and Growing Your Business, that we did earlier, that you can still get as a video series, a standalone purchase. And so you can go check that out. Again, just go to oursuccessgroup.com and you can check that out. So I think that is it. Again, like I said, the other stuff's trade show related, but we know that that's all a little bit in flux. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and step out of the way. Thank you so much. In fact, I saw a couple of comments here that I wanted to pop up here. Tim said, great job, ladies. Well done, everybody. Pilar and Milissa were awesome. So yes, 100% agreed. Thank you guys so much for your time and for being there, and appreciate all of the wonderful information. And I appreciate you guys being so open and honest, especially with a funny looking guy sitting here too. So you guys were wonderful and fantastic and made the show. Also like to thank our sponsors, Impressions Expo, and make sure that you're supporting them. I know they're going through some hard stuff right now. So look for those, get to those shows later on, that they're going to be hurting and they're going to need our help, our support from the decorators community here. So we appreciate that. Next week, we're going to be, hopefully Terry will be back. We never know what Terry's schedule is. We're going to be talking to Pete Lovelace, who's with Booster Spiritware, and we're going to be talking about being a virtuous leader. He was one of the speakers at the ThreadX events recently, so you've heard a little bit from him in our coverage of that. And really looking forward to kind of continuing that conversation with him. He's got some great ideas, some great thoughts, and he's doing some great things with his business. He's got 42 employees that work for him there, and they were able to take all of them to the Bahamas recently. So obviously he knows how to get things done. He's from previously was pretty high up at the Ritz-Carlton, so brings a lot of that message of customer experience plus employee experience and kind of, again, being a virtuous leader. So really looking forward to that conversation next week too. So until then, I'm Aaron Montgomery. Again, Terry should be back next week. Thanks so much to Eric for everything he's doing, being in the comments and all of that stuff. So check him out over at ericcampbell.com. And without further ado, we are the Two Regular Guys. Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.